Today I'm going to show you a highly efficient hip mobilization with a glute activation. What's going on, everybody? It's Blake Bowman here with Gorilla Zen Fitness, and in today's video I'm going to be showing you an anterior, meaning frontal hip stretch mobilization, and it's going to be coupled with a glute activation. So to begin, there is a ton of content out there on the internet and on YouTube kind of discussing how hip flexors get tight from sitting, and it basically goes like this. The hip flexor muscles, including the rectus femoris, which is a muscle that runs right down your thigh, this big meaty muscle on the side of your thigh here, as well as your iliopsoas, which is kind of like inside your abdomen. All of those muscles, their job is to actually flex the hip, which means pull the knee up to like form a 90-degree angle with the body, okay? That's the role and the function of the hip flexor muscles. Now when you're seated, those muscles don't have to do their job, and you're actually putting them into a shortened position because you're flexing the hip passively. And basically what happens is they adaptively shorten. They're like, oh, this is where we're supposed to be. This is the position that we're supposed to be in. They shorten up and they become stiff and tight. Now the interesting thing is that the hip flexor muscles are actually antagonist muscles to the glutes, meaning that they have opposite functions, okay? And what that also means is if you're tight and really overactive in an antagonist muscle, the muscles that those muscles act as an antagonist to actually shut down and become weak and underactive. They're hard to activate, okay? And that's typically what happens with people that have really tight hip flexors. Their glutes, they just can't turn them on. They can't turn on their butt muscles. And glutes, having glute strength is critical in order to keep power, to keep lower body explosive strength high. You can't possibly squat and deadlift and sprint to your maximal capacity unless you have strong glutes. And also, they play a critical role in stabilizing the lumbar spine and the knee. So if you have weak glutes and overactive hip flexors, you really kind of put yourself into a predisposed state to experiencing an injury in those areas. So here's a really simple, really quick, really effective hip mobilization. It's going to stretch the front of the hip while simultaneously strengthening the glutes. Okay, so the setup for this stretch is probably very similar to a lot of other hip flexor stretches that you've seen on the internet, even in my videos. It's very common. There's a little slight twist that I'm going to be showing you in this version though, okay? But this is essentially the startup position. You're going to put one knee down right underneath the hip, and then you're going to plant the other foot out in front of you like this, okay? And the goal here is to basically have a 90-degree bend in both knees and have your legs form a 90-degree angle when they intersect with each other, okay? So this is a good starting position. From here, put your hands together, put them on the knee that's on the leg that's planted, and then be up nice and tall here, thoracic spine extended, okay? What you're going to do is you're going to kind of hinge forward like this, and you're going to find your end range, okay? And that just means like how far can you like take this hip back into extension like this until you start to feel some restriction in the front of the hip, okay? This hip for me is very restricted and it's something I've been working on lately, but I'm feeling restriction right here. So what you're going to do for repetitions is you're going to come out of the end range and then move into that end range again while squeezing the butt as hard as you can. You're using the glute muscle on the leg that's down to propel the hips forward, okay? And what you're going to try to do is you're going to pump into end range and then out. And then pump into end range, this time go a millimeter further and then back. And then again forward again, squeeze in, trying to go even a millimeter further again, and then back. Really squeezing the glutes hard, okay? The whole point is to identify your end range of motion, okay? So if you can move back this far, then once you come out, you go a little bit further. Come out, go a little bit further. This is how you're actually going to gain flexibility in the hips, okay? You're going to be literally like pulling those tissues in the front of the hip that are restricting your hip extension. You're going to be pulling those apart, which is going to in turn give you more range of motion. Be gentle with this. Don't ever try to push past your end range more than just like a millimeter. I'm talking like real small, okay? Little tiny, pulses further and further, okay? But yeah, that's basically how you do it. It's a great exercise, and it's really good for finding out if you're kind of restricted on one hip more so than the other side. Like I was doing this to myself the other day, really realized I was missing a lot of extension on my left hip, which kind of explains some issues that I've been experiencing recently. So do this and let me know how it goes. I would recommend you perform about 4 sets of 10 repetitions on each leg. Remember that the hip flexors are antagonists to the glutes, right? Like I said earlier, you can't have really strong, maximally effective and powerful glutes unless your hip flexors are somewhat supple, okay? And keep that in mind too, that the hips only, basically the glutes only contract at their maximal capacity when your hips are in full extension, okay? And basically what that means is you have to be able to get your leg like back to here in order to maximally contract your glutes. And if your hip flexors are really, really tight, they're going to limit the amount of extension that you have, okay? So if you're really tight in the front of the hip, you might only be able to get your leg back this far. You might not be able to get back all the way there. And because of that, your glutes will never be able to activate. So even if you're doing an exercise like hip thrusters, where the goal is to strengthen the glutes, if you're missing hip flexion, you just simply won't be able to get enough hip extension to activate the glutes sufficiently enough to gain strength in that area. So keep that in mind. You definitely want to do this exercise before you do any type of glute strengthening exercise where you're actually like loading your body up with movement. This is kind of like a passive way to activate the glutes, but it's definitely a great thing to do prior to actually targeting the glutes with like weighted hip thrusters or kickbacks or like any type of machine or anything like that. I hope this video helped you out. I hope it provided value to you, and you're going to actually use these mobilizations before you do glute strengthening. If you like this video and you're not yet subscribed to my channel, then go ahead and do that right over here. Also, don't forget to like me on Facebook and follow me on Instagram. I'll include links to both of those in the description down below. On a concluding note here, make sure you pick up your copy of my new ebook, Posture: The Ultimate Life Hack. In the book, I talk all about posture, its importance, what ruins it, and a couple things you can do to fix it. So it's a really good book. I put a lot of effort into it, so make sure you get it. Other than that, I'll see you next time.